Chapter 1. Own your power or be owned. Power is never given. Power is never freely offered. Power is claimed. And the first step to claiming power is simple. You must own yourself. You must own your mind, your voice, your body, your choices. If you don't, someone else will. This is the harsh truth that defined the lives of two extraordinary men, Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. Both faced worlds that underestimated them, constrained them, and tried to define them. Both refused to comply. Both refused to be owned. Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little in Omaha, Nebraska, grew up under the shadow of racism, poverty, and violence. His father was killed when Malcolm was 6. His mother was institutionalized when he was 13. From that young age, the world was trying to own him, trying to define him as powerless, as a victim, as someone destined to fail. Yet Malcolm didn't accept that. He realized early that the first step to freedom, the first step to influence, was owning himself. He studied tirelessly, first in prison, and then outside of it. He immersed himself in history, religion, philosophy, and politics. He read the works of philosophers, activists, and strategists. He wrote. He debated. He learned to speak with precision, confidence, and authority. It's not about surviving oppression. It's about claiming your intellect, your voice, and your authority. Malcolm X didn't merely speak about freedom. He embodied it. His 1964 speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, delivered in Cleveland, Ohio, wasn't just a clever turn of phrase. It was an assertion of personal and collective power. He declared, "We declare our right on this earth to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society." Notice what he did there. He didn't beg. He didn't negotiate. He claimed. He owned the right to demand respect. Now, look at Muhammad Ali. Born Cassius Clay in Louisville, Kentucky, Ali faced a different, but equally brutal, battle. Society told him, in subtle and overt ways, that he was too brash, too loud, too confident. The boxing world doubted him. His coaches worried about his technique. Opponents mocked him. Yet Ali claimed power from the very moment he declared, at 22 years old, "I am the greatest." Not might be. Not will be. I am. That declaration wasn't arrogance. It was ownership. Ownership of talent. Ownership of mind. Ownership of destiny. Ali trained relentlessly, knowing that power in the ring was more than physical strength. It was psychological dominance. It was speed, strategy, and confidence. His technique, the way he floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee, was a testament to the idea that when you own your body and your skill, no one can defeat you. Notice the patterns here. Malcolm X and Ali both faced systems designed to diminish them. Malcolm faced a society steeped in racial injustice. Ali faced an industry steeped in tradition, expectation, and the threat of suppression. Both were pressured to conform, to stay silent, to accept limits. And both refused. It's easy to say, be yourself, but harder to live it when the world tells you, day after day, that you are wrong, weak, or insignificant. Malcolm X said, "If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing." Owning your power is not just about defiance. It's about discipline. Malcolm's discipline came through study, reflection, and constant self-improvement. Ali's discipline came through training, visualization, and mastery of his craft. Not only did discipline create their power, but it amplified it. Without discipline, words alone are empty. Without discipline, talent alone is wasted. Just as Malcolm X sharpened his mind, so too Ali sharpened his body and reflexes. Power begins with mastery of self. There is a lesson here for you, the listener. You might think power is about status, title, or resources, but in reality, power begins internally. It begins with recognizing that no one controls your mind but you. No one controls your effort but you. No one controls your decisions but you. This is about more than confidence, it's about agency. It's about taking responsibility for your existence in a world that constantly tries to limit it. Far from being optional, this is essential. Consider how Malcolm X organized communities, demanded political attention, and used the platform he built to challenge the status quo. His power wasn't granted. It was claimed through knowledge, speech, and unwavering self-possession. Ali, meanwhile, used every fight, every public appearance, every word in interviews to assert dominance and control perception. He turned the media into a tool. He turned criticism into fuel. Not because the world respected him automatically, but because he claimed respect through action and declaration. Not only did they claim power for themselves, but they also modeled it for millions. The practical takeaway is simple but transformative. To own your power, start with 3 pillars. Mind, feed it knowledge, challenge assumptions, and think strategically. Malcolm X read hundreds of books in prison to reclaim his mind and reshape his worldview. What are you reading? What are you learning every day to sharpen your edge, body, train it, discipline it, push it beyond perceived limits? Ali didn't just swing punches. He trained his reflexes, his speed, and his endurance to dominate every opponent. What habits are you practicing to strengthen your body, your stamina, your resilience, voice our action, speak, act, and show up consistently? Declare your intentions, like Ali did with "I am the greatest," and Malcolm did with every impassioned speech. Power is meaningless unless expressed and enacted. Chapter 2. Speak to shake the system. Power is silent only until it is expressed. Authority is invisible until it is demonstrated. Influence is meaningless until it is communicated. The real question is not whether you have the capacity to act, it's whether you have the courage, the discipline, and the skill to speak in a way that moves the world. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali both understood this truth intuitively. They mastered the art of communication as a weapon, a shield, and a signal of dominance. Malcolm X once said, "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today." He didn't merely talk about preparation in the abstract. He prepared his mind, honed his rhetoric, and learned to deliver every sentence with precision and power. Every speech was calculated, every word deliberate. His 1965 speech at the Audiobook Ballroom in New York wasn't casual conversation, it was a strategic strike. He dissected injustice, highlighted systemic oppression, and challenged complacency. He forced his listeners to confront uncomfortable truths about race, equality, and freedom. Malcolm knew that words alone could not change the world, but the right words, delivered with discipline and timing, could reshape thought, incite action, and ignite movements. It's not about speaking louder for the sake of attention, it's about speaking smarter. It's not about repeating phrases to fill air, it's about constructing arguments that hit like a blow. Malcolm X didn't rely on emotion alone. He relied on evidence, logic, and moral authority. When he said, "If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing," he was warning his audience about manipulation, misinformation, and complacency. Far from being a casual observation, this statement was a call to mental vigilance, a call to awareness, and a call to action. This is about more than speech. It's about shaping perception, controlling narrative, and seizing authority over ideas. Muhammad Ali, though a boxer, understood the same principle. Outside the ring, he transformed charisma into influence, and influence into power. He knew that victory was not determined only by punches thrown, but by the narrative the world embraced. He famously said, "I am America. I am the part you won't recognize. But get used to me. Black, confident, cocky, my name, not yours. My religion, not yours. My goals, my dreams, my fight. Don't just take my word for it. Look at how the media, the public, and even political figures were forced to acknowledge him. His statements weren't merely ego. They were a declaration of presence, a challenge to systemic norms, and a reclamation of identity. Notice the repetition in their strategies. Both men understood that to move the world, you must speak louder, bolder, smarter than anyone else. Say it again, louder, bolder, smarter. Malcolm X amplified the voices of the oppressed through meticulous preparation and unwavering confidence. Ali amplified his persona, his brand, and his influence through charm, provocation, and relentless self-assurance. Not only did their methods differ, but they both achieved the same outcome: a world listening, a world paying attention, a world moved by the audacity to speak and the courage to be heard. The practical lesson here is urgent. Influence is not passive. It does not happen by chance. If you wait for permission, you will remain silent. Whether you like it or not, the world is shaped by those who take the stage, command the microphone, or simply claim the floor. Malcolm X practiced this relentlessly. He would spend hours refining speeches, reading and quoting history, religion, and philosophy to reinforce authority. Ali practiced it instinctively, knowing that every interview, every press conference, every boast carried consequences. What we need is not casual conversation, but precise, deliberate, strategic speech. What we need is not empty confidence, but earned authority. What we need is not popularity, but influence that lasts. Malcolm X once warned, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." The real question is not whether you have intelligence, it is whether you have learned to wield it effectively. Ali knew that skill and talent without declaration are wasted. Here's the behavioral instruction for you. Prepare your words, study, research, plan. Every statement, argument, and message you deliver should be intentional. Malcolm X didn't leave his speeches to chance. He crafted them like a master sculptor shapes a statue. Command the room. Presence matters. Ali's confidence, his tone, his timing, his posture, all amplified his words. Speak with a presence that cannot be ignored. Stand as if every eye is on you, because they leverage repetition and reinforcement. Repeat your key messages. Use cadence, rhythm, and emphasis. Both men repeated their core principles constantly until their audience could not ignore them. The lesson here is also psychological. Words are tools, weapons, and armor. Use them wisely. Malcolm X's phrases forced reflection, challenged complacency, and demanded action. Ali's phrases provoked thought, commanded respect, and altered perception. Just as mastery of mind and body is essential, mastery of voice is equally non-negotiable. If you don't learn to project your ideas effectively, you risk irrelevance. If you don't seize attention strategically, you risk being ignored. Both men understood that influence is cumulative. Each speech, each statement, each word reinforced the others, building momentum, building authority, building legacy. Far from being isolated moments, these were carefully orchestrated campaigns for attention, respect, and power. Now, consider the consequences of inaction. If you remain silent, if you fail to express your ideas, if you let fear of judgment control your voice, then you allow others to define the narrative of your life. If we don't speak boldly, then we risk invisibility, impotence, and irrelevance. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali teach us that the world bends to those who speak with precision, courage, and authority. Speak louder. Speak bolder. Speak smarter. Claim your narrative. Command attention. Shape perception. Deliver ideas with discipline. Your words are your power. If you master them, you control influence. If you fail, the world controls you. Chapter 3. Turn fear into fuel. Fear is inevitable. Fear is universal. Fear is unavoidable. But here's the crucial truth. Fear is not a weakness. Fear is not a sign of failure. Fear is not a limit imposed on you by circumstance or by society. Fear is a tool. It is raw energy, a signal, a spark that can ignite courage if you know how to handle it. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali mastered this principle in ways that the world still studies, admires, and emulates. Malcolm X lived in a world that sought to suppress him at every turn. From his youth in Omaha and Lansing to his adult years in Boston and New York, he was surrounded by danger. His activism drew the attention of those who thrived on racial injustice. Threats were constant. Violence was imminent. He survived assassination attempts, threats, and the constant knowledge that his life was at risk simply for speaking the truth. Yet Malcolm did not retreat. Far from being paralyzed by fear, he transformed it into clarity, strategy, and determination. He wrote, "I am for truth, no matter who tells it. I am for justice, no matter who it is for or against." Notice the audacity of this statement. Ali's experience with fear was different but equally instructive. In 1967, when he refused induction into the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War, he faced the loss of his heavyweight title, the potential for imprisonment, and ridicule from the public and media alike. Critics labeled him unpatriotic. Opponents mocked his stance. The government threatened his career. It's easy to say, be courageous, but harder to face the real-life consequences of standing firm. Ali declared, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me nigger." His fear was tangible. He knew what could happen, but he converted it into purpose. Every jab of doubt thrown at him by critics became motivation to strengthen his resolve. His courage electrified fans, inspired activists, and rewrote the relationship between celebrity, race, and principle. You might think fear is the enemy, but in reality, fear is the signal that you are approaching your limits. That is where growth begins. That is where courage is forged. Malcolm X taught us that awareness of danger sharpens intellect, precision, and focus. Muhammad Ali demonstrated that awareness of risk amplifies strategy, performance, and mental toughness. The more important issue is that fear is only paralyzing if you let it control you. Turn it. Transform it. Use it. Malcolm X did not allow threats or intimidation to silence his speeches. His 1964 message to the grassroots addressed the threat of systemic oppression head-on. He said, "We want justice by any means necessary." These were not empty words. They were a declaration that fear would not define his actions or goals. Ali, during his exile from boxing, trained harder than ever. He sparred, studied his opponents, and visualized victories, knowing that fear of losing his career could either destroy him or fuel him to become greater than ever before. Here's what we can learn from their mastery of fear. Fear is a measurement, not a sentence. The intensity of fear correlates with the magnitude of opportunity. If you feel fear before a presentation, a competition, or a bold decision, don't run. Prepare. Plan. Channel. Malcolm X and Ali did not wait for fear to vanish. They transformed it. Malcolm would study, write, and refine ideas while the world tried to intimidate him. Ali would train, taunt, and psych himself into readiness even as pundits predicted his failure. Behaviorally, here's how you can turn fear into fuel. Acknowledge it. Don't ignore fear or pretend it doesn't exist. Ali acknowledged the stakes of his Vietnam stance. Malcolm X recognized the threats against his life. Analyze it. Identify why you feel fear. What are the risks? What are the consequences? Malcolm X studied social systems. Ali studied the consequences of public defiance. Knowledge converts fear into actionable insight. Act through it. Fear becomes fuel only when you act despite it. Train harder. Speak louder. Plan smarter. Action is the antidote. Just as Malcolm X converted personal threat into strategic action, so too Ali converted public scrutiny into unparalleled performance. Both models show that fear is not a wall, it is a ramp. It elevates you if used properly. It's easy to say, be brave, but harder to face threats, criticism, or potential failure daily, deliberately, strategically. This is about more than courage. It's about discipline, consistency, and mastery over your internal state. Consider this. If we don't confront fear, we risk stagnation, regret, and invisibility. Malcolm X could have remained silent, could have conformed, could have avoided risk. Ali could have compromised, could have surrendered to public pressure, could have let fear of career loss dictate his choices. Instead, they acted. They transformed fear into energy, into preparation, into a force that others could neither ignore nor match. The practical takeaway for listeners is actionable. Every time you feel fear, identify it, embrace it, and convert it into your next move. Channel it into preparation, into execution, into relentless pursuit of your goal. Malcolm X turned fear into articulate speeches, organizational strategy, and movement building. Ali turned fear into knockout victories, public dominance, and cultural influence. Not because they were fearless, but because they disciplined themselves to use fear strategically. The ultimate lesson of this chapter is clear. Fear is fuel, not a barrier. Whether in social injustice, public challenge, or personal ambition, the way to dominate is not to eliminate fear, but to master it. Turn it into clarity. Turn it into energy. Turn it into action. Turn it into power. Turn it. Transform it. Use it. As we close this chapter, remember, fear is unavoidable, but your response is not. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali teach us that courage is forged in the crucible of fear, and greatness is claimed by those who act despite it. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of recognizing fear as a tool, a weapon, and an accelerant for achievement. If you can harness fear, you can harness power. If you can harness power, you can control your destiny. Chapter 4. Strategy beats strength alone. Strength without strategy is wasted energy. Talent without foresight is squandered potential. Power without planning is unstable. The real question is not whether you have skill, force, or ability, is whether you know how to direct it with precision. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali understood this principle intuitively, and their lives teach a lesson that every listener must internalize. Success is never accidental. Success is prepared, plotted, and executed with tactical brilliance. Muhammad Ali's strategy in the ring was legendary. Many saw only the spectacle of his fights, the flamboyant dance, the bold taunts, the knockout punches, but behind the showmanship was meticulous preparation. Ali studied every opponent in exhaustive detail. He watched past fights, analyzed tendencies, calculated weaknesses, and visualized multiple outcomes. He understood that physical strength alone would not make him great. He combined strength with speed, agility, timing, and psychological warfare. His mantra, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee," was not a catchphrase. It was a distilled representation of strategic mastery. Ali knew when to attack, when to retreat, when to bait, and when to strike decisively. Every fight was a chess match, and Ali played with foresight, intuition, and deliberate control. It's easy to admire his victories and forget the preparation behind them. The real question is not whether Ali was naturally talented, but how he maximized that talent through strategy. He famously defeated Sonny Liston in 1964, a bout in which few believed he had a chance. Many thought Liston's size and power would dominate Ali's speed. But Ali used strategy. He taunted, he moved unpredictably, he controlled the pace, and he struck when the moment was right. His triumph was not luck. It was plotting, preparation, and execution. Malcolm X approached strategy differently, but with equal effectiveness. His battles were not in the ring, but in the realm of ideas, politics, and social influence. Malcolm X meticulously mapped political landscapes, alliances, and audiences. He understood that every speech, every statement, every public appearance was an opportunity to advance his cause. He knew when to strike with bold rhetoric, when to pause and educate, and when to build alliances that would amplify his message. Far from being reactive, he operated with foresight. His 1964 speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, is a perfect example. He combined clarity of vision with strategic delivery, addressing the nation with both urgency and precision. The lesson is clear. It's not that strength is irrelevant, it's that strategy multiplies strength. Just as Ali turned physical prowess into ring dominance through foresight and planning, so too Malcolm X turned intellect and charisma into movement building through careful orchestration. Strategy is awareness made actionable. Strategy is patience, analysis, and anticipation transformed into decisive action. Consider the practical takeaways for your life. Strategy requires 3 pillars: observation, planning, and execution. Observation is about understanding your environment, your resources, and the forces that oppose you. Ali's keen study of opponents like Joe Frazier and George Foreman allowed him to anticipate moves before they occurred. Malcolm X's study of political structures, social dynamics, and media narratives allowed him to anticipate public reactions and optimize his messaging. Without observation, planning is blind, and action is wasted. Planning is about crafting a roadmap, mapping contingencies, and rehearsing outcomes. Ali visualized fights repeatedly in his mind before stepping into the ring. Malcolm X wrote speeches, analyzed opponents' potential counterarguments, and built networks of influence to maximize reach. Planning transforms raw energy into precision. It converts potential into probability. Execution is the final, indispensable step. Strategy without execution is fantasy. Ali's movements, his punches, his feints were the embodiment of plans realized in real time. Malcolm X's speeches, interviews, and organizational efforts were the translation of strategy into societal influence. The more important issue is that execution must be deliberate, consistent, and adaptable. Plans rarely survive the first encounter with reality unchanged. Ali would adjust mid-fight. Malcolm X would adapt messages to different audiences. This is about more than preparation. It's about tactical intelligence applied consistently. Strength alone might overpower temporarily, but strategy ensures sustainable dominance. Fearless action without foresight is reckless. Knowledge without application is wasted. Ambition without planning is frustrated. Don't just take my word for it. Look at specific examples. In the rumble in the jungle against George Foreman in 1974, Ali faced an opponent many considered unbeatable. Foreman was stronger, younger, and widely favored. Ali implemented the rope-a-dope strategy. He absorbed Foreman's blows strategically, conserving energy, studying patterns, and waiting for the right moment to counter. The result, a stunning knockout and one of the greatest upsets in sports history. That victory was not the result of raw strength. It was strategy executed under pressure, discipline, and foresight. Similarly, Malcolm X's work with the Organization of Afro-American Unity in the mid-1960s demonstrates strategic mastery outside of combat. He knew that raising awareness required timing, platforms, and alliances. He delivered speeches to audiences that could affect change, wrote articles to control narrative, and built coalitions to strengthen political leverage. His influence was proportional to the precision of his strategy. Not only did he understand the content of his message, but he also mastered the delivery, timing, and context. Strength may earn temporary victories, but strategy builds legacies. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali are living proof that preparation, planning, and execution, combined with courage, discipline, and audacity, produce results far beyond raw talent. Behaviorally, here's what you can do. Observe ruthlessly. Study your competition, your environment, and your opportunities. Understand what is at stake and who or what opposes you. Plan deliberately. Map your path. Anticipate challenges. Rehearse outcomes. Chapter 5. Fight in the Spotlight. Visibility is power. Presence is influence. The world responds not just to action, but to action that is seen, noticed, and felt. You cannot win in the shadows. Step into the light. Step into the arena. Step into influence. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali mastered the spotlight, not because they crave attention, but because they understood that visibility amplifies impact, multiplies power, and cements legacy. Muhammad Ali was never subtle. He understood that the spectacle of the ring was inseparable from the narrative of his dominance. When he said, "I am the greatest," he was not just boasting. He was commanding attention, shaping perception, and setting the stage for action. Ali recognized that the fight was more than physical. It was a theater of influence. The more people watched, the more pressure opponents felt, the greater the psychological advantage. He didn't just fight with fists. He fought with charisma, media strategy, and visibility. Every interview, every press conference, every bold proclamation was part of a calculated performance designed to control the narrative. Far from being reckless, Ali used the spotlight strategically. He knew that public scrutiny could either crush him or elevate him. In his 1971 fight against Joe Frazier, the fight of the century, Ali faced a daunting opponent and an unforgiving public. Yet he didn't shrink. He embraced the attention, flaunted his strategy, and converted media pressure into motivation. Visibility was not optional, it was a tool. Presence amplified his talent. Presence amplified his message. Presence amplified his power. And the result? Ali became not just a champion of the ring, but a champion in culture, history, and influence. Malcolm X understood the same principle in the realm of ideas and activism. He knew that visibility was not about ego, it was about effectiveness. In the early 1960s, when Malcolm X emerged as a leader within the Nation of Islam, he recognized the potential of media coverage to amplify his message. He deliberately engaged journalists, attended public forums, and delivered speeches with timing and impact. He understood that the more people saw and heard him, the more influence he could exert. In his 1964 New York debates and speeches, he leveraged attention to challenge norms, confront injustice, and elevate the urgency of his cause. If you're not careful, he warned, the media will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. He used visibility to counter this narrative, to educate, and to inspire action. It's easy to underestimate the power of visibility. Many think action alone is enough. But in reality, the arena of influence is public. Whether in sports, business, politics, or social movements, your actions are only as impactful as the audience that witnesses them. Just as Ali amplified his physical dominance through spectacle, so too Malcolm X amplified his moral and intellectual authority through strategic presence. This is about more than charisma, it's about tactical use of attention. You cannot hide and hope to lead. You cannot whisper and hope to inspire. Whether you like it or not, influence requires exposure. It requires performance. It requires intentional presence. Ali didn't hide behind humility. He owned the public eye. Malcolm X didn't retreat into private study alone. He projected his message to the masses. Here's the practical lesson for listeners. Embrace visibility strategically. 3 pillars can guide your approach. Own your presence. When you step into a room, a stage, or an arena, claim it. Speak clearly, carry yourself confidently, and act decisively. Ali's entrance to Madison Square Garden, with his confident stride and bold demeanor, announced dominance before a punch was thrown. Malcolm X's stance at public rallies projected authority even before his words landed. Leverage media and attention. Visibility can be amplified through media, networking, or public engagement. Ali used television and print to shape perception. Malcolm X used interviews, debates, and speeches to extend his influence. Align visibility with strategy. Light alone does not create success. Your actions in the spotlight must reflect skill, preparation, and purpose. Ali's brashness was paired with unmatched boxing skill. Malcolm X's bold statements were paired with intellectual rigor. If you are in pursuit of success, leadership, or influence, the world will notice you, either as a figure of command or as a passive participant. The choice is yours. Control the narrative, or allow others to control it for you. Ali understood this when he declared his greatness. Malcolm X understood this when he transformed interviews into movements. Both converted attention into action, visibility into power, and spectators into allies. Repetition reinforces mastery. You cannot win in the shadows. Step into the light. Step into the arena. Step into influence. Step into the light. Step into the arena. Step into influence. Every opportunity to be seen is an opportunity to assert control, to inspire, and to advance your mission. Fear of scrutiny, fear of criticism, or fear of judgment must never prevent action. Both Ali and Malcolm X faced intense public scrutiny, but they used it to sharpen performance, refine strategy, and amplify impact. Behaviorally, you can apply these principles today. Seek visibility in environments where influence matters. Don't avoid attention. Channel it. Ensure every public action reflects skill, preparation, and authenticity. Visibility without competence undermines credibility. Transform public pressure into motivation. Scrutiny is a signal, not a threat. Just as Ali turned each fight into a spectacle that magnified dominance, so too Malcolm X turned each appearance, each debate, and each speech into a platform that magnified influence. Far from being optional, mastery of the spotlight is essential for anyone seeking to leave a mark on the world. Strength, courage, and skill matter, but their impact is exponentially increased when paired with strategic visibility. The lesson of this chapter is clear. Influence is amplified by presence. Dominance is strengthened by visibility. Power is multiplied by strategic projection. You cannot win in the shadows. You cannot inspire in obscurity. To dominate your arena, whatever it may be, you must step into the light, step into the arena, and step into influence. Chapter 6. Challenge every expectation. Expectations are invisible cages. They define how the world anticipates you will act, what limits you will accept, and the boundaries you must never cross. They are societal prescriptions, cultural rules, and historical assumptions. Whether you like it or not, expectations exist, but the question is, will you obey them blindly, or will you challenge them deliberately, strategically, and relentlessly? Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali provide a masterclass in breaking limits, defying stereotypes, and reshaping reality. Malcolm X refused to accept the narrow roles assigned to black men in America. From his early life marked by hardship, incarceration, and systemic oppression, he understood the limitations the world would impose on him. Yet he refused to conform. He rejected passive acceptance, refused to apologize for his race or identity, and challenged societal norms with fearless clarity. He famously stated, "If you're not ready to die for it, put the word freedom out of your vocabulary." This was not bravado. It was a declaration that real change requires rejecting the expectations of fear, limitation, and compliance. Far from being reckless, Malcolm X's defiance was precise, deliberate, and strategic. He analyzed the system, understood its pressures, and intentionally positioned himself to challenge it. Ali approached expectations differently, but with equal audacity. As a young fighter, he was expected to be polite, humble, and deferential to established norms of boxing etiquette. Critics said he was arrogant, disrespectful, and brash. They expected him to be another obedient athlete, performing quietly within the rules of society's approval. Ali shattered those expectations. He declared, "I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was." Not only did he assert confidence beyond his years, but he also mocked stereotypes, challenged perceptions of black athletes, and reshaped the idea of what it meant to be a champion both inside and outside the ring. Ali's defiance was a deliberate, public act of empowerment, a strategic reshaping of cultural narrative. It's easy to conform, but harder to challenge expectations strategically. The real question is not whether the world wants you to follow the rules, it is whether you are willing to write your own. Ali and Malcolm X demonstrate that breaking rules is not about ego, it's about opportunity. It's about creating a space where you define success, influence, and power on your own terms. Malcolm X challenged expectations in every speech, every interview, and every political move. Ali challenged expectations in every fight, every public declaration, and every media appearance. The practical lesson here is urgent. Expectations exist to limit action. If we accept them passively, we live a life dictated by others. If we challenge them actively, we expand opportunity. Not because the world will suddenly approve, but because by breaking its rules thoughtfully, we carve new possibilities. Malcolm X did not wait for society to redefine its views on race and religion. He forced awareness, provoked debate, and demanded reconsideration. Behaviorally, here's how to apply this lesson. Identify the expectations. Look around. What do people assume you will do? What do critics, peers, or society expect of you? Awareness is the first step toward disruption. Choose which to challenge. Not every expectation needs confrontation. Strategic rule-breaking is about maximizing leverage, influence, and opportunity. Malcolm X chose the battles that would elevate justice and awareness. Ali chose the battles that would define his legacy and identity, act boldly and deliberately, break rules with purpose, not recklessness. Deliver actions that shock, inspire, or create momentum. Ali's early taunts at opponents and Malcolm X's bold speeches in hostile settings were calculated to produce maximum impact. Just as Ali disrupted the narrative of athletic humility, so too Malcolm X disrupted narratives of race, religion, and social hierarchy. Far from being aimless, their defiance was disciplined, intentional, and consistent. They demonstrate that challenging expectations is not mere rebellion, it is mastery of the social arena. Not because they were fearless, but because they were disciplined. You might think that challenging expectations invites failure, but in reality, it creates influence. Ali's public statements often drew criticism, yet they enhanced his legend, electrified audiences, and pressured opponents psychologically. Malcolm X's bold rhetoric and strategic defiance drew threats, yet expanded his following, sharpened his arguments, and increased his leverage. If you follow rules blindly, you risk invisibility. If you challenge them intelligently, you command attention, respect, and results. It's not that rules are unimportant. It's that some rules are designed to contain you, to define limits you don't need to accept. The more important issue is your approach. Challenge expectations with discipline, preparation, and precision. Malcolm X built organizations, articulated ideology, and cultivated alliances to amplify his defiance. Ali studied opponents, prepared psychologically and physically, and leveraged every public platform to assert dominance. They show that challenge without strategy is chaos. Challenge with strategy is transformation. Break rules that limit your potential. Challenge expectations that restrict your growth. Test limits that constrain innovation. This is about more than rebellion. It's about creating space where your vision, skills, and voice define the future. Ali and Malcolm X demonstrate that sustained challenge converts risk into opportunity, criticism into influence, and limitation into legacy. The lesson of this chapter is direct and uncompromising. Conformity is optional, impact is not. If you follow rules blindly, you remain ordinary. If you challenge expectations with intelligence and discipline, you become unstoppable. Break the rules. Break them strategically. Break them consistently. Break them to create opportunity, influence, and legacy. Chapter 7. Master your mind. Master the game. Every battle begins in the mind. Every fight, every challenge, every confrontation starts with thought, focus, and preparation. You can be stronger, faster, and more talented than your opponent, but if your mind is untrained, distracted, or weak, you will lose before the first blow is struck. The real question is not whether you are capable, it is whether you are in control. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali show us that mastery of the mind is mastery of the game. Malcolm X understood that mental strength was the foundation of influence, leadership, and survival. From his teenage years of hardship and incarceration, he learned that the mind could be a sanctuary and a weapon. In prison, he committed himself to relentless learning. He read voraciously, history, philosophy, politics, religion. He reflected deeply, questioned assumptions, and shaped a mental framework that allowed him to think strategically, act decisively, and inspire powerfully. He said, "Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today." Mental discipline became his shield and his sword. Ali, on the other hand, demonstrated that physical dominance is amplified by mental mastery. In the ring, every movement, every feint, every jab was planned and visualized before it happened. Ali used psychological warfare, trash talk, confident predictions, and bold posturing to control opponents' minds. He famously predicted, "I'm gonna float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The hands can't hit what the eyes can't see." But he didn't just speak bravado, he visualized outcomes, anticipated reactions, and conditioned his focus to execute under pressure. The principle is simple, but rarely applied. The mind is the battlefield. Whether you are facing a literal opponent or navigating life's challenges, victory starts internally. You might think that skill, strength, or opportunity determines outcomes, but in reality, the mind shapes the way those factors manifest. Malcolm X's ability to articulate ideas, persuade, and lead movements came from disciplined thought. Ali's ability to predict opponents' moves, remain calm under pressure, and exploit opportunities came from focused mental rehearsal. It's not that physical preparation is irrelevant, it's that mental preparation multiplies its effect. Just as Ali studied tape and rehearsed fight scenarios mentally, so too Malcolm X studied history, analyzed political systems, and rehearsed speeches internally. Both demonstrate that excellence requires the synchronization of mind and body, strategy and action, thought and execution. Far from being optional, mental mastery is mandatory. Consider the practical steps for mastering your mind. Commit to learning relentlessly. Knowledge strengthens perspective. Malcolm X read hundreds of books in prison, teaching himself languages, history, and philosophy. He transformed confinement into a laboratory of growth. Your environment may not be a prison, but the principle is identical. Absorb knowledge, study patterns, and expand mental capacity. Visualize success and anticipate challenges. Ali would mentally rehearse fights, visualizing the rhythm, angles, and timing of every opponent. Visualization allows your mind to pre-experience scenarios, increasing confidence and reducing error. Whether for presentation, a negotiation, or a high-stakes challenge, mentally rehearsing outcomes primes you for execution. Control emotional response. Fear, doubt, and anger are powerful, but uncontrolled, they are destructive. Malcolm X faced death threats, media attacks, and constant scrutiny, yet he controlled his response, transforming anxiety into strategic action. Ali faced global criticism for refusing the draft, yet he remained focused, channeling public outrage into motivation. Emotional discipline is the bridge between potential and performance. Ali's psychological tactics made opponents hesitate, doubt, and falter. Malcolm X's articulate analysis and unwavering confidence commanded respect, attention, and followership. Both demonstrate that mental mastery influences others as much as it strengthens the self. Influence begins internally. Control your thoughts, sharpen your focus, and the world will respond. The real question is not whether life is difficult, it is whether your mind is resilient enough to convert difficulty into opportunity. Ali endured grueling training, long rounds, and punishing opponents, yet he visualized victory consistently. Malcolm X faced systemic barriers, prejudice, and violent opposition, yet he continually reinforced his mission mentally, intellectually, and emotionally. Consistent mental rehearsal, reflection, and focus were the engines of their success. This is about more than thought. It's about preparation, focus, and anticipation. Whether you are negotiating, leading, performing, or fighting, mental mastery is what allows you to act decisively. Strength without strategy falters. Action without focus is chaotic. Mind mastery transforms energy into impact. Ask yourself daily, are you controlling your thoughts, or are your thoughts controlling you? Are you visualizing outcomes, rehearsing contingencies, and reinforcing focus? Are you transforming doubt, fear, and distraction into clarity, strength, and execution? These are not abstract exercises. They are the same methods that allowed Malcolm X to lead movements and Muhammad Ali to dominate the world's greatest fighters. Discipline, reflection, visualization, and strategic thinking can be learned and applied by anyone willing to do the work. Mental mastery is not innate. It is developed. If we don't train the mind, then we risk surrendering the game before it begins. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of conscious control, deliberate action, and unstoppable momentum. Repetition reinforces dominance. Control it. Sharpen it. Win it. Control it. Sharpen it. Win it. Every battle starts in the mind. Every fight is won or lost long before the first action. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali show that the combination of knowledge, focus, and mental toughness converts pressure into advantage, challenge into opportunity, and preparation into performance. Master your mind, and every arena you enter becomes winnable. The lesson of this chapter is unambiguous. The mind is the battlefield. Your thoughts and mental discipline are the tools that turn potential into power, effort into victory, and ambition into legacy. Chapter 8. Transform pain into purpose. Pain is universal. Everyone experiences loss, hardship, rejection, and failure. But the real question is not whether pain exists, it is what you do with it. Pain is inevitable. Purpose is optional. Choose purpose. Transform pain into relentless drive. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali exemplify this principle at the highest level. They turned suffering into motivation, criticism into strategy, and adversity into unstoppable momentum. Malcolm X's early life was marked by hardship. He lost his father to violence. His mother suffered institutionalization. His family was fractured, and the world seemed intent on limiting his opportunities from the start. Many would have accepted defeat. Many would have surrendered to despair. Not Malcolm X. He transformed every wound into a lesson, every setback into fuel, and every injustice into a call to action. He said, "I've had enough of my condition. I've had enough of the abuse, the humiliation, the denial. I'm going to make a difference, and I will not stop." In prison, Malcolm X converted confinement into education. He studied voraciously, analyzed systems of power, and sharpened his mind. Every hour spent behind bars was invested in mental and moral development. What we need is not sympathy for hardship, but rather a relentless focus on converting adversity into advantage. Malcolm X demonstrates that enduring pain is not enough. You must transform it into something actionable. Muhammad Ali faced a different, yet equally intense form of pain. The world criticized him, the government tried to silence him, and he was stripped of his heavyweight title for refusing to be drafted during the Vietnam War. He endured public ridicule, threats, and professional isolation. It's easy to say, face adversity, but harder to maintain self-belief when the world turns against you. Ali didn't just endure, he embraced the challenge. He trained harder than ever, sharpened his mental game, and transformed public scorn into legendary comebacks. He returned to the ring not just to fight, but to dominate, reclaiming the title, the narrative, and his legacy. His pain became purpose, his criticism became strategy, and his exile became a proving ground. Pain can break people, or it can define them. The more important issue is how you respond. Ali and Malcolm X show that the choice is yours. Don't just survive pain, convert it into a driving force. Pain becomes a teacher, adversity becomes a catalyst, and challenge becomes momentum when approached with intentionality and discipline. Here's the practical blueprint for transforming pain into purpose. Recognize the fuel in pain. Every hardship contains a lesson. Malcolm X recognized that systemic oppression and personal loss were not the end, they were the beginning of his mission. Ali recognized that public criticism and forced exile were not punishment, they were opportunities to prove greatness. Every painful moment can be converted into fuel for action. Invest pain into growth. Don't allow suffering to stagnate. Study, train, reflect, and act. Malcolm X transformed prison confinement into a library of knowledge, self-discipline, and philosophical insight. Ali transformed ridicule into enhanced focus, strategy, and physical conditioning. Growth is the direct result of applied pain. Channel pain into action. Reflection alone is insufficient. Action amplifies transformation. Speak. Fight. Lead. Organize. Train. Every effort directed intentionally converts suffering into momentum. Pain without purpose stagnates. Purpose without action is impotent. No one can deny that both men experienced hardship, but what's often overlooked is the method of conversion. Malcolm X did not merely rail against injustice. He constructed intellectual frameworks, organized communities, and created strategies that maximized impact. Ali did not simply return to the ring. He refined technique, mastered psychological tactics, and reclaimed dominance with precision. Both illustrate that purpose is not a spontaneous result. It is cultivated, engineered, and executed. It's not that adversity is fair. It's that mastery over its influence is achievable. Far from being passive victims, both men actively reshaped the narrative around their suffering. Every insult, every loss, every obstacle became part of a larger story of resilience and empowerment. Ali's poetic declarations, "I shook up the world," were not empty words, they were the embodiment of turning adversity into triumph. Malcolm X's speeches, full of conviction and clarity, were not mere rhetoric, they were living proof of transformed hardship. This is about more than overcoming hardship, it's about constructing a pathway from suffering to significance. Whether you face personal setbacks, professional criticism, or systemic barriers, the principle is identical. Your response determines your legacy. Strength, courage, and skill are insufficient without the alchemy of purpose. You might think transformation is effortless, but in reality, it is relentless. It requires reflection, discipline, focus, and continual reinforcement. Malcolm X spent hours studying and strategizing in prison. Ali spent hours visualizing, training, and refining every movement. Both demonstrate that the process of turning pain into purpose is not a singular act. It is repeated, reinforced, and relentless. Just as Ali transformed exile into a comeback that cemented his legacy, so too Malcolm X transformed suffering into a movement that reshaped history. Far from being optional, this ability to turn pain into purpose is essential for anyone seeking lasting impact. Pain is inevitable. Purpose is optional. Choose purpose. Transform pain into relentless drive. Transform pain into vision. Transform pain into legacy. The lesson of this chapter is undeniable. Adversity is universal, but transformation is intentional. How you process, react, and act determines whether pain destroys you or propels you. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali teach us that discipline, focus, and relentless action converts suffering into unstoppable momentum. If you do this consistently, no obstacle is insurmountable, no setback is final, and no opponent is unbeatable. Pain becomes the fuel, purpose becomes the engine, you become unstoppable. Chapter 9. Influence through action, not words alone. Words are powerful. Speeches can inspire, declarations can motivate, and arguments can shift perspectives. But words alone are insufficient. Action is the amplifier, the multiplier, and the final arbiter of influence. The real question is not whether you can speak, it is whether you can move, act, and implement. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali show us that influence is born not only in eloquence but in the deliberate, decisive execution of purpose. Actions amplify words. Malcolm X understood this principle better than most. While his speeches electrified audiences, his true power came from translating rhetoric into organized, measurable action. He didn't simply talk about racial justice, he built organizations, trained leaders, and structured communities to enact real change. He said, "I'm for truth no matter who tells it. I'm for justice no matter who it's for or against." This declaration was not mere words, it was a commitment to systemic action. Malcolm X's speeches were accompanied by strategic initiatives, whether through the Nation of Islam's programs or his later efforts in establishing Pan-African solidarity. Influence without implementation is hollow. Malcolm X demonstrated that measurable, tangible action cements authority and extends impact. Ali's influence, while different in form, followed the same principle. In the ring, every fight was a stage, every victory a signal to the world. But outside the ropes, Ali mobilized attention, inspired cultural shifts, and reshaped societal perceptions of courage, race, and integrity. He refused to be silent when it mattered most. He refused the draft. He protested against systemic injustice, and he amplified causes that resonated beyond boxing. Critics predicted ruin. The world watched in shock. Ali turned the spectacle into activism, demonstrating that performance and principle can coexist. It's easy to admire eloquence, but harder to combine it with relentless execution. The real question is not whether people listen, it is whether your words catalyze movement. Malcolm X inspired followership not just by speaking truth, but by creating structures that operationalized his vision. Ali inspired generations not just by declaring greatness, but by embodying it in victory, defiance, and disciplined training. Influence is the compound result of speech multiplied by action. The lesson is clear: words set direction, actions determine impact. Malcolm X's speeches could have been intellectual exercises, but they became movements because he acted strategically. He founded schools, organized initiatives, and nurtured leaders. Ali's words could have been empty bravado, but they became cultural shifts because he fought, persisted, and risked everything for principles he declared publicly. He is the practical blueprint for amplifying influence through action. Translate vision into tangible steps, ideas alone remain abstract. Malcolm X transformed his vision of racial justice into structured programs, community initiatives, and political mobilization. Ali transformed his vision of personal and societal impact into disciplined training, public protests, and fearless competition. Leverage every platform for action. Words have reach, but action has authority. Malcolm X used speeches, newspapers, and debates to propagate his ideas, but he simultaneously organized networks and alliances. Ali used interviews, televised fights, and public appearances to amplify messages, but he simultaneously challenged systemic norms through direct action. Every platform should carry both the message and the movement, reinforce action with consistency. Influence is cumulative. Isolated acts create noise. Repeated, disciplined action creates recognition and authority. Malcolm X's decades of organizing, lecturing, and writing created enduring influence. Ali's years of championship fights, public advocacy, and social defiance built a legacy that continues to inspire. Not only do actions solidify influence, but they also inspire followership. People are drawn to those who implement vision, not just those who articulate it. Malcolm X commanded loyalty because he demonstrated alignment between words and deeds. Ali commanded admiration because his victories, public stances, and personal courage exemplified the principles he espoused. Influence is not passive, it's earned through measurable, visible, and relentless action. You might think that speaking well is enough, but in reality, words without action are hollow. Ali's declarations of greatness were legendary, but if he had failed in the ring, they would have been dismissed as arrogance. Malcolm X's critiques of systemic oppression were profound, but without organizing and strategic initiatives, they would have remained commentary. Action validates speech, speech guides action. The two are inseparable. It's not that charisma is unimportant, it's that execution converts charisma into impact. Whether your goal is personal achievement, societal change, or professional leadership, the principle is identical. Influence through action multiplies reach, reinforces authority, and builds legacy. Consider the behavioral takeaways. Act boldly in alignment with words. When you declare intent, follow it with visible steps. Commitment without action erodes credibility. Leverage visibility strategically. Every stage, interview, and opportunity is amplified when paired with measurable impact. Repeat, reinforce, and escalate action. Influence grows exponentially when acts of consequence are repeated, reinforced, and scaled. Just as Ali turned the ring into a platform for social commentary, so too Malcolm X turned his speeches into institutions of change. Far from being passive observers of circumstance, both men demonstrate that influence is the direct outcome of disciplined, intentional, and repeated action. Action validates intent, multiplies authority, and leaves an enduring mark. Words are the blueprint, action is the building. Without execution, vision crumbles. Without action, influence decays. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali teach that the most powerful legacy emerges when thought, speech, and action converge seamlessly. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali demonstrate the principle with irrefutable clarity. Influence is built on action, sustained by discipline, and immortalized through courage. Let every word you speak be backed by a measurable, relentless, and decisive action. Chapter 10. Leave a legacy they cannot ignore. Your life is your arena. Every choice, every word, every action contributes to the legacy you leave behind. The real question is not whether you will face challenges, it is whether your life will resonate long after you are gone. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali understood this principle intuitively, and they lived it deliberately. They built legacies so powerful that decades after their deaths, their influence continues to shape movements, inspire courage, and redefine possibility. Malcolm X's legacy is intellectual, moral, and strategic. His speeches, writings, and debates continue to ignite activism worldwide. Decades after his assassination in 1965, students, leaders, and activists study his ideas, dissect his arguments, and apply his strategies to fight injustice. What we need is not admiration for past greatness, but a recognition that his principles are living tools. Malcolm X said, "If you're not ready to die for it, put the word freedom out of your vocabulary." His life teaches that ideas backed by action endure, and that influence is preserved when thought, strategy, and courage are inseparable. Ali's legacy is equally profound, yet different in scope and method. He transcended boxing to become a global symbol of courage, showmanship, and social influence. He redefined what it meant to be a champion, not merely by winning fights, but by daring to defy expectations, challenge injustice, and speak truth to power. His persona, his speeches, and his victories became templates for courage, discipline, and personal branding. Ali said, "Don't count the days, make the days count." The principle is clear. Legacy is built through consistency, courage, and deliberate amplification of your values. It's easy to say you want to be remembered, but harder to ensure that every act aligns with that goal. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali demonstrate that legacies are not accidents. They are engineered through purpose, repetition, and uncompromising discipline. Consider the concrete methods by which they built enduring influence. Live your principles relentlessly. Words alone will fade. Malcolm X's commitment to truth, justice, and education was backed by years of disciplined activism, organizational work, and personal sacrifice. Ali's refusal to be drafted, his public advocacy for civil rights, and his relentless defense of personal belief made him a living example of principle transform personal success into collective inspiration. Ali did not only fight for himself, he fought for the world to see courage and conviction in action. Malcolm X did not merely seek personal enlightenment. He structured education, strategy, and organization to empower entire communities, use visibility strategically. Fame and recognition are tools, not goals. Ali used the global stage of boxing to draw attention to justice, courage, and individuality. Malcolm X used speeches, debates, and publications to extend the reach of his ideas beyond immediate audiences. Ali's poetic declarations, "I shook up the world," were not only expressions of confidence but statements of intent, repeated and reinforced throughout his career. Malcolm X's speeches, meticulously crafted and delivered with precision, were not ephemeral. They were designed to echo across time, instructing and inspiring new generations. Legacy is strengthened when words, deeds, and principles are synchronized and amplified. The more important issue is not what you accomplish today, it's what impact those accomplishments will have tomorrow. Every project, every speech, every challenge you undertake is a building block of influence. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali show that the best way to secure enduring impact is to align effort with principle, action with intent, and courage with consistency. You might think legacy is reserved for the extraordinary, but in reality is the product of deliberate, repeated, and disciplined choices. Legacy is not about fame alone, it is about significance. Ali's influence endures not merely because he was famous, but because his actions reshaped expectations of courage, performance, and moral integrity. Malcolm X's influence endures not merely because he was brilliant, but because he converted thought into strategy, words into movement, and adversity into empowerment. Here's how you apply these lessons in practical terms. Identify the core principle you want to be remembered for. Is it courage, discipline, truth, innovation, or leadership? Clarify it, repeat it, and act consistently in alignment with it. Create tangible evidence of influence, build organizations, complete projects, train others, and document your ideas. Legacy lives in both action and artifact. Amplify through visibility. Share your work, speak publicly, teach, mentor, or perform. Influence is preserved when witnessed, repeated, and emulated, reinforced continuously. Repetition solidifies remembrance. Ali fought, spoke, and advocated repeatedly. Malcolm X lectured, wrote, and organized relentlessly. Every act compounded influence. Malcolm X's intellectual fire continues to spark movements. Ali's courage continues to inspire millions. Both demonstrate that a legacy is not accidental, it is intentional, repeated, and reinforced relentlessly. Your life is your arena. Step into it fully. Take control. Shape perception. Leave influence. The lesson of this final chapter, and the cumulative lesson of this audiobook, is unequivocal. Your actions, your courage, your principles, and your discipline define your lasting mark. Rise. Rebel. Repeat. Speak with conviction. Act with purpose. Inspire through consistency. Leave a legacy that cannot be ignored. Your life is the stage, your actions are the script, and your influence is the measure of immortality. Choose to dominate it. Choose to be remembered. Choose to be unstoppable.